So if you're a human being that's been on the internet before, you've probably clicked on one of these. One of these bait and switch internet lists with each entry being a new URL or the webpage being a mile long to feed you ads as you scroll into oblivion looking for the end. It's okay, if it takes me being the first to admit it, I'll bite that bullet. And you do, and you land here. It's here where you're filled, no matter how many times you've been fooled, with a tiny modicum of hope. This will be worth your time, you tell yourself. I mean, how couldn't it be? Look at that title. And so you click, you know what you want, you're chasing that headline that brought you here, what you came for. Every new URL on that list created to serve you a new ad is one step closer to regret. You know you're getting close, though, to that thing you're here for, and you're in so deep that there's really no going back now, right? So you click and click and click, and finally, sometimes minutes later, you're there. The best, whatever this is, catharsis, or at least it should be. Instead, if you're like me, you ask yourself a simple question. Why couldn't you have given this to me to begin with? Welcome to Birds of Prey, or the emancipation of the Buzzfeed movie. It starts with the headline and the click. Birds of Prey's marketing, its headline if you will, what landed you in front of this movie is where our journey begins. Well, it should. That job is, well, actually done for the movie here. You know who Harley Quinn is, you know what a superhero movie is, and you know what went wrong here. At least, the marketing of this film assumed you did. Because that's really all it gave you, and that was just enough. So, you're here. Staring down what you now realize is going to be pages of nonsense until you get to where you thought you were headed. And it's exactly what you expect. Birds of Prey is obsessed with exposition, and it tries to be aware of that. It and a few other things are what fills the pages of this movie.
I get it. You're really not as complicated as you think.
And you're really not as clever as you think, because now I'm gonna slice
Jesus Christmas, now you're gonna say.
But it isn't that self-aware. Really, it's an incredibly predictable and tropey film that acknowledges, like here, that it's that thing, but doesn't really elevate its own faults. It just keeps playing into them. So you click past page 1 and you're here. The tired, trite narrative play, The MacGuffin. A MacGuffin is a plot device that uses a central object to motivate the characters and create the momentum of the story. Here it's a diamond that she swallows, and everyone wants the diamond because cliche money reason, and your story is on its way. You've seen this plot before, not just once, not just twice, but 100 times in superhero films alone. Forget the rest of the film industry. And it's as tired as it seems. So you click to page 3, and you meet this guy. Surely, a villain will spice this up, and that is a villain. Well, kind of, he's a bad guy, but I'm not entirely sure he deserves the title of villain. Sure, he cuts off people's faces, well, he doesn't, but he has people cut off people's faces, and that's however really as menacing as he gets, and the script seems to be aware of this as well, so it tries to slice through his shtick by stuffing in a scene where he wildly makes a lady dance on a table. Ewan McGregor is great, but here, what you get as a villain is someone you're much less scared of than you are confused by. It's weird, quirky, Sheldon Cooper-esque Joker light. And so you click to page 4, and you hit that page where you really consider clicking off. And for Birds of Prey, that's the moment you realize that the film is making the same mistakes as the Justice League did before it. A movie that is far too bloated with characters and plot threads that it nearly bursts. By trying to introduce you to 7 different primary characters, only one of which you're likely truly familiar with, the movie decides to focus on the wrong things. Instead of learning and discovering these people through entertaining and interesting moments of good screenwriting, for example, you get a one-sentence backstory for her, and really nothing else for the first hour and 20 or so minutes, absolutely nothing out of her mouth, almost literally for the same period of time, an intentionally cliche cop loses badge over morality tale for her, which is apparently supposed to be self-aware, and erratic nonsense from them. Well, actually, Zaz isn't all that bad. But the movie insists on keeping these characters separate through most of its runtime, you know, for their Avengers moment, while failing to realize that what works for ensemble films, especially films that try to play like the Avengers or Justice League, is putting people together. clashing, problem solving with and against one another. That's kind of the point of an ensemble film. But you push through. One more click, and boom. A twinkle. You feel like you're almost there. You've been hooked, just a bit. What is there that keeps you interested enough? Well, in the case of Birds of Prey, I think it's the action. And it's worth pointing out there really isn't a lot of it to go around for most of the runtime, but when it hits, well, it isn't too much of a surprise given that John Wick's director Chad Stahelski had inputs on the film's action, and it shows. Most of it is done practically with wide shots and minimal editing. This, like John Wick, allows the action to be far more immersive and much more grounded than, say, the typical DC film. It's also incredibly creative at times. Sure, the police department glitter rampage is a little kitschy, but a car chase on rollerblades or a foot race to save a sandwich is unlike almost any movie you'll see this year in terms of its action, and its final climactic fight in a funhouse is the perfect encapsulation of that. This film's action screams Harley Quinn, better characterizing her and her birds than most of the film's dialogue, and it carries you through until you're here. That final click, the end, catharsis. Birds of Prey delivers here. In the last 25 minutes of the film, Birds of Prey gives you almost everything you could have asked for. And I don't just mean the Birds of Prey themselves. In those 20 minutes, we are given substantially more characterization, more humor, and more heart than nearly every moment that came before it. How? By simply placing these people together and giving them carte blanche to interact with each other, instead of just this walking migraine in this blank sheet of paper. By doing this, we learn more about their behavior, the way they communicate, and who they really are than over an hour and 15 minutes of exposition was able to accomplish while keeping them isolated from one another. I mean, this is literally the first time Huntress becomes anything more than a near silent backstory. And the action, which has been one of the bright spots of the film, benefits as well, finally released from its chains to be as anarchic and unhinged as the people involved in it. For 20 fleeting minutes, we get people instead of caricatures. We get the hint of relationships and stakes instead of unmedicated exposition, and for a few moments, it becomes a lot easier to care. You get that Birds of Prey movie you were promised. You get a moment where you feel like your patience has been rewarded. And yet still there's that lingering regret, perfectly visualized with the same DC mistake the company can't escape, where this bright, colorful film's identity has to overcome a cliche, dark, foggy, brooding environment, attempting to bury that momentary momentum and success. It's almost as if the wasted potential of the rest of the movie, of the time it wasted, is chasing it down, trying to make sure that last click, that last bit of catharsis means nothing at all. Look, I don't think Birds of Prey is a terrible movie. In fact, there's quite a bit of it that I enjoyed, but it, like the worst of Buzzfeed, is simply more focused on promising you something better, teasing you with the idea of anything, than it is actually delivering that thing to you. And it isn't alone, as cinematic universes and ensemble hero films continue to saturate the market, more and more have and will continue to fall victim to the very same trappings. If you really want to do Birds of Prey 2 or a new one of these, be the last page of Buzzfeed all the time. Don't be a personification of every moment spent there. Live your promise. Live your headline. It should only ever take one click. That is it for this episode of Nerdstalgic. Guys, if you enjoyed this one, press that like button down below. If you haven't yet done so, also hit subscribe. That'll make sure you won't miss anything. Also hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button. That makes sure you're actually notified when I upload, so you won't miss anything at all, which helps me a lot and will help you see the videos. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at NerdstalgicYT. And finally, on your screen right now are 2 more episodes of Nerdstalgic. You can click on either of those to stay here and see what I've done recently. And hopefully I will see you guys in the next video.